Hey everyone, welcome back to another explainer. So if you've been integrating AI coding assistants into your daily workflow lately, and let's be real, who hasn't, you've probably hit a very modern and honestly very frustrating pain point. Your API bills are just going through the roof. Well, today we're looking at a super fascinating new developer tool that's built specifically to fix exactly that. It's an IDE-native routing layer called Duel Agents, and it's looking to fundamentally change how we actually pay for AI generations. All right, let's just lay out our roadmap really quick. First, we'll hit the flagship pricing problem. Then, introducing Duel Agents, move into route, score, and split, do a quick Claude Code setup, and finally cover the risks and limitations. Okay, jumping right into section 1, the flagship pricing problem. We really need to unpack this huge universal inefficiency that pretty much every developer faces right now when setting up their AI environments. Minus 73%. Crazy, right? According to data self-reported by the Duel Agents team, this is the massive amount of money you might literally just be wasting when you rely exclusively on flagship-only AI setups for your day-to-day coding tasks. But, why is there so much potential waste happening in the first place? Well, just think about a normal coding session. Literally 1 minute, you might ask the AI for a simple 2-word variable rename. Super basic. Then the very next minute, you need a deep, complex explanation for a massive code-based refactor. Normally, if you've got your setup locked to just Claude 3.5 Sonnet or GPT-4o, both of those prompts cost the exact same premium token rate. You're completely locked into a single flagship model, meaning you are paying flagship prices for a simple autocomplete that a tiny, dirt-cheap model could have knocked out perfectly. Which brings us straight to section 2, introducing Duel Agents. And this tool is so cool because it reframes the whole issue. It treats your API bill not as a pricing problem, but as a routing problem. At its core, Duel Agents operates as an IDE-native framework. It basically takes your prompt, runs it against every model you have access to, and ultimately gives you the absolute cheapest answer that still passes a quality check. And the absolute magic word here is IDE-native, right? This isn't some clunky new standalone app or a separate terminal shell you have to migrate to. It acts as a drop-in router directly inside the agent IDEs you're already using every day, like Claude Code or Cursor. So you might be wondering, how on earth do you get access to all these different models without juggling like a dozen different API keys? Well, you just pay one single subscription to Duel Agents. They've got an indie plan at $19 a month, going all the way up to a team plan for $199. And that one subscription grants you full access to their massive routing network. You fire off a prompt, and suddenly you're instantly tapping into this huge ecosystem: ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, alongside super efficient models like DeepSeek, Llama, Mistral, and Perplexity. You stop paying one single provider, and instead, you pay for intelligent access to all of them at once.
Now, that sounds amazing in theory, for sure. But if we're going to trust the tool with our production code, we need to know how it actually makes these routing decisions. So let's move into section 3, route, score, and split, and get a little technical on what's happening under the hood. The architecture executes in 3 distinct rapid-fire stages. First up, the root stage. Instead of pinging Anthropic or OpenAI directly, your prompt hits the Duel Agents proxy, which instantly fans the request out in parallel to the available models. Next up is the score stage. The proxy isn't just taking a wild guess here. The responses get evaluated in real time against public benchmarks and Duel's own private evaluation suite, specifically tailored to the task you just sent. And finally, the split stage, which is absolutely crucial for your complex workflows.
Now, what's really fascinating here is how they handle that split phase through something called recursive decomposition. Think of it like taking a massive project and automatically slicing it up into tiny bite-sized Jira tickets. When you send a huge job, Duel Agents automatically breaks it down. The big jobs fan out into sub-agents, and those sub-agents fan out into mini-agents. Then, the proxy routes every single tiny slice to the absolute cheapest model tier, capable of passing the quality check for that specific fragment. It guarantees you are never ever overpaying for the easy parts of a really hard job.
Okay, so if you're a developer eager to stop overpaying, how do we actually get this running? Let's pivot to section 4, Claude Code Setup Guide.
Actually getting the Claude Code plugin active is heavily streamlined. It's surprisingly quick. First, you just clone the official Duel Agents repo from GitHub. Boom. Next, you navigate into that folder and hit it with the Claude plugin install command, pointing directly at their local integrations directory. Once that finishes, you finalize the package install by running npx @duelagents/install Claude Code. It's just a super fast, totally standard developer workflow.
Once all that's installed, you just jump right into Claude Code and type /Duel Agents Setup. This triggers a really nice guided, interactive configuration right inside your terminal, handling all those messy environment variables for you seamlessly. From then on, you rely on the model identifier called Duel Auto, and the proxy completely takes over the rest. Oh, and if you ever run into connectivity issues, the system provides a really handy Doctor's CLI command. Just run that, it immediately pings the proxy and verifies that your unique Duel API key is active and formatted perfectly.
Of course, rerouting all of your IDE's AI traffic is a pretty massive architectural decision. You shouldn't take it lightly. Let's transition to Section 5, Risks and Limitations, to honestly examine the trade-offs of this framework. So the absolutely crucial part is understanding these caveats before you commit. First, there are no raw provider keys allowed. You cannot just bring your own direct Anthropic or OpenAI keys. Literally everything has to route through a generated Duel API key. Second, this creates a total dependency on proxy uptime. If the Duel agent servers go down, your tool's AI capabilities go down right with it. Third, that impressive 73% cost savings claim, that is self-reported based on their private task sets. There are currently no independently published benchmarks verifying that number. Fourth, there is no documented free tier. You gotta have an active paid subscription to generate a key. And finally, while the CLI and plugins are open source, the proxy where the actual routing and scoring magic happens is entirely closed source.
All in all, it's a highly ambitious approach to a very real, very painful problem in modern software development, which leaves us with one final, pretty provocative question for you to consider as you head back to your IDE. Is your next prompt really worth flagship prices? Seriously, think about your daily coding habits, the sheer volume of simple autocompletes you run every day, and ask yourself if an automated routing layer might be the exact efficiency your workflow is missing. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and keep learning.